Okay, so today we will continue with the earlier classes. In the last class, we were looking into the derivation of immiscible two-phase fluid flow through porous medium. So this was the final equation that we got, and so in this case, we have considered all possible complications that can occur in immiscible two-phase fluid flow through porous medium problem, which means we have considered the raw compressibility, fluid compressibility. The fluid compressibility has been addressed in as formation volume factor, and we say that capillary pressure exists, uh, um, and we have considered the gravity forces also. So, so if you remember from the governing equations, from the governing mass conservation and momentum conservation equation. So using Darcy's law, we apply Darcy's law in mass conservation equation, and the two equations basically we did all the mathematical operations to bring it into a single equation. So the final equation that we got here is of this form. So which has a temporal term. So this is a temporal term, and so this oil flow and water flow terms will account for the viscous forces which is governing the fluid flow, and this term will the second line, the gravity terms, will account the gravity forces, in buoyancy induced forces that drive the fluid. So that will be taken care of the gravity terms and the capillary pressure term. So this capillary pressure term basically we got from the water flow term, when we attempt to convert dou P water by dou X into dou P oil by dou X. So when we try to convert this dou P water gradient of pressure of water in terms of oil pressure gradient, we end up in getting this capillary pressure term. Okay, so and we have discussed also that this equation is nonlinear. That nonlinearity is coming because of all these variable coefficients. So in this case, relative permeability KRO is a variable as a function of expressed as a function of saturation, and mu is also is changing as a function of pressure, and B naught formation volume factor is also is changing. So likewise for the other terms also, you have the mobility term as a coefficient, and this mobility is a variable. So that makes this equation more complicated to solve, and so there are how do we solve that is another problem, because we need a numerical solution. So we have to apply some numerical technique and uh, solve this problem basically. Okay, and another point is this equation has, even though we have expressed in terms of P oil, by default means inherently you have the influence of saturation. So we have saturation and the pressure as the primary dependent variable, and even though we do not have saturation term here, but the influence of saturation term is coming into this equation through this KRO, means relative permeability term, and I think here also, no, only through the relative permeability term we have, and capillary pressure. So capillary pressure we can get as a function of saturation. Okay, so even though this equation has only one dependent variable, P oil, and the variable coefficients are expressed as a function of another dependent variable, and so this equation is getting more complicated, and the number of variables in this equation is 2. Okay, so but we have only one equation, so somehow we have to solve it. Okay, so we will try to solve this equation, not as such. We will try to simplify this problem. This is the most maximum possible equation, complication that you can get for a single phase fluid flow. So we have not considered, two phase fluid flow in one dimension. Sorry, I wrongly mentioned a single phase flow. It is for two phase flow in one dimension. So we have not considered for the other two dimensions. So when we consider for three phase flow, then I'm sorry, three-dimensional flow in x and y, x, y, and z directions. If the flow is happening, then you will get the terms corresponding to y and z axis also. So the equation will get slightly more complicated. So even then, it is quite difficult for us to solve this problem. So we will just try to simplify it, and then we will just explore a technique, most widely used technique in oil industry. Okay, so basically, the assumption is we will try to consider the viscosity of the fluids as constant, and the rock and fluid are incompressible. Okay, which means that porosity is constant, and as porosity is constant, permeability is also is not going to change, and this K is not, intrinsic permeability is not going to change, and B naught and the water formation volume factor, this compressibility of the fluid is it is incompressible, and so we say that it is equal to 1. And time being, we just neglect the effect of capillarity and gravity as well. Okay, so finally, the main governing equation will become like this. Okay, so we do not have P oil and P water, and so you have only pressure term for each phases. So this is for oil phase. This equation is coming here, and this equation is coming here. Okay, so you don't have the PC term. Is a dou Z by dou X is not there, and B water and B oil are constant, and even though still it is inside only. Okay, and here the porosity is constant. So moving all the constant terms outside, we will end up like this. So this B naught and B naught will get cancelled. B water and B water will get cancelled, and porosity comes out. So we have porosity into dou S by dou T, and mobility term of oil into dou P by dou X, and mobility term of water into dou P by dou X. Okay. So adding both equations, this equation corresponds to the oil phase, and this equation corresponds to the water phase. Okay, so adding both the equations, we will have like this. So this dou porosity into dou S oil by dou T, saturation of oil by dou T, and saturation of water by dou T. When you add it, it will become 1 dou 1 by dou T, and so it will become 0. Okay, and the right hand side terms will form like this, and this kr k into kr alpha by mu alpha, you can take it as lambda alpha. So lambda is the mobility of the individual phases, and it becomes like this, and you can add both. So total mobility into dou P by dou X, the whole inside the derivative of dou by dou X. So this is the final fluid flow equation we have. Okay, so for this assumption, so for whatever the assumptions that we have made here, this equation, the main equation which we have derived last time, has reduced to this form. Okay, so all the complications have been considered insignificant, and so you see these two terms combine together and form a one single term here. And the right hand side, even the temporal derivative of the pressure is not present. Even though pressure is varying with respect to space and time, as per the equation, means the derived equation from the governing equations, we don't have a temporal term. Okay, so that does not mean that it is a steady state flow, but the means unsteady condition will come here through this saturation. Okay, so this saturation is varying with respect to time. Means as of this equation, it does not have a temporal term, so it means that mathematically it means that it is steady state flow, but actually it is not. So it is unsteady flow only. But when we try to use the governing equation and consolidate it into a single equation, so we end up in losing this temporal term. Okay, so but still that temporal part is taken care by this lambda term. Okay, so this is the final equation that we had got. So even though it looks simple, very simplified form of the earlier equation, but still it is a nonlinear equation because of this lambda t. Okay, so this lambda t is a variable expressed as a function of saturation. Okay, so we have only one equation and the two unknowns are there. So you need this number of unknowns and the number of equations should be equal. And so, and then only we can solve the equation. And so we make use of this saturation equation. So from the governing equation, we have saturation equation. From the governing equation, you take any one phase of any one equation from means any of the phase, means not necessarily it should be oil phase. You can take water phase saturation equation also. So which means that saturation equation I'm meaning because we are calculating saturation from that. So, the reason for saturation equation I will explain you in the next slide. So basically it is nothing but the mass conservation equation. So this equation is what is coming here. Okay. So now we have two equations. So two equations, two unknowns, and so you can solve the equation now. Solve the set of the problem now. So how we are going to do it now? So that's where there are several techniques. You can solve it directly also, and so indirect technique also is there. So indirect technique means we try to, so this main complication is because of this lambda, because of the lambda being a variable. So because of the variable coefficient only we face this problem. And so the idea is you linearize this nonlinear equation. So linearize this nonlinear equation means, so even though it is a variable, make it as a constant at that time and at that node, particular node. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we do that is, so we have the saturation of the earlier time level, assume that saturation corresponding to this saturation value, calculate lambda. Okay, so that lambda value will come here. Now, even though this lambda is a variable, but as per that equation, as per that node, for this equation, it is constant. Okay, so apply that philosophy. So the nonlinear equation is linearized in this way. And now the only dependent variable is pressure, this pressure. So now you can solve the equation and you will solve it. So the pressure that we have calculated now is based on, is not the exact solution, not the final solution. It is based on the assumed saturation. Okay, so this we have assumed the saturation. So say for example, we are starting the simulation at nth time level VR for n plus 1th time level. We calculate lambda t from the nth time level value, previous time saturation value. From that value, we calculate lambda, and using this value, we calculate pressure. So the computed pressure is based on the lambda only, assumed saturation. Okay, so now the assumed saturation has to be verified, verified for whether we have made a correct assumption or not. That verification we have to make. So convergence check you have to make. Okay, so basically we have means it is like an iterative way of solving. So iterative way of solving you might have come across in numerical techniques. If you have two unknowns in an equation, you assume one unknown and then calculate the other equation, and whether the assumption is correct or not, that we have to check based on the calculated value. So that same philosophy only we are applying here. So the value which you have calculated here, the pressure value which we have calculated during this iteration, that value is used here, and we get this value, we get this term, right hand side term, and this is a temporal derivative of saturation. From this you will get a S oil n plus 1. So that is going to be the computed saturation, and whether this computed saturation and the assumed saturation are matching or not, that we have to check. If we have made a right assumption, so it will match. If it is not matching, then we have to update the computed saturation as the assumed saturation. So likewise, iteration goes. Okay, so in the second iteration, the saturation value computed here will act as the input for calculating lambda. And based on the current assumption, you have the lambda and you will get pressure corresponding to this current assumption. So that pressure value will come here. Again, you will get another saturation. So likewise, it goes in a cyclic way. Okay, so that is why these two equations are called. So the first equation is called as pressure equation, and the second equation is called as a saturation equation, because we calculate pressure from the first equation, equation 5, and the assumed saturation, we are correcting the assumed saturation here. So we are calculating the saturation here, and so it is called as a commonly called as saturation equation. Okay. So this is the overall philosophy. So now how we apply that philosophy here, that's what we have to see. So if you recall our earlier lecture, so if you have a variable coefficient, so we used a staggered grid arrangement. Okay, I hope you remember that. I'll just go back. We used a staggered grid arrangement. So so we had a I plus one, I plus half, and I minus half term, and from that term we got an equation like this. Okay, so this issue basically came because of the variable coefficient only. So we had the equation like you have B naught, formation volume factor, compressibility of the fluid was assumed, and so we had a formation volume factor as a variable, and because of this variable coefficient, we applied this way of gridding, staggered grid arrangement, and that we have applied to solve that problem. So the similar philosophy we have to apply here. Okay. So because you have variable coefficient here, even though we are linearizing it, so we have to consider, we cannot move it outside. That will be mathematically wrong. Linearizing does not mean that we are making it as a constant. So we have to account it as a constant, but uh, this value is known. Okay, so that's what linearizing means. You know the value of lambda by using the assumption. Okay. So this ideology of assuming saturation, calculating pressure, and from the computed pressure, calculating saturation, and checking the assumed and computed saturation for convergence, this way of solving is called IMPAS. Okay, IMPAS. You might have come across this term IMPAS. So it's an abbreviation. So if you expand it, it is called implicit in pressure and explicit in saturation. Okay. So this implicit in pressure and explicit in saturation is nothing but how we are discretizing these two equations. So the pressure equation, how we are going to discretize it. So that's what is implicit in pressure, and how we are going to discretize this saturation equation. Okay, so that's what explicit saturation is. Okay, so we have CMG. So you have Imax, right? Imax in CMG, Imax module is there, right? That Imax is nothing but implicit and explicit. So that comes from here. So implicit IMEX. Okay, so that's what Imax means, because it is a black hole simulation model and uses this way of solving the field case problems. Okay, so that is why it is called as Imax. So it is a technical term. So that is a product name, and this is a technical term called IMPES. So this scheme is called IMPES. Okay, so this equation, when you discretize it, which time level value which we are going to assume. So that's what make it as implicit. Okay, so when you discretize it, you consider pi n plus 1. Okay, so you know we consider the means we discretize it in an implicit way. We have talked extensively about implicit and explicit, and so you should be following what implicit and explicit means at this point of time, and so you should be aware of it. So the first equation we are discretizing in a fully implicit manner. So that's why it is implicit in pressure. And the second equation we are discretizing explicitly. Okay, so this term, this computed value is coming inside here. Okay, so that's why it is called explicit. So even though it is a computed value, we have not gone to the next time step. We are in the iteration zone only. Okay, so that's why it is explicit. Okay, so it is not Pn plus 1 value, it is a iteration value. This is iteration value that comes here. Okay, so somebody is annotating here inside the screen. Don't do it. Okay, so whatever I was discussing here is mentioned here. Okay, so the nonlinear equation 5. This equation 5 is linearized by assuming the saturation. So you assume the saturation. So you have initial saturation, right? So we have this initial saturation. So this initial saturation, using this initial saturation, calculate lambda. Okay. So this lambda means lambda at each node you have now. Every node we have. And so even, but it is not constant for all the nodes. Okay. So that we have to understand. When you are solving, saturation at this point is going to be different. This point is going to be different. nth time level is going to be different, n plus 1 for different time, and for every location it is going to be changing. Okay, and so you will have lambda, different lambda values at each nodes for every time step. For every iteration also we will get a different lambda value. Okay, so that lambda value will come here, and you get the pressure n plus 1, pressure iteration 1. And then, okay, so you assume the saturation. So we have considered this saturation as the means iteration value, and then you calculate lambda. Okay, this value is calculated, and substitute this lambda t here, and then solve this equation implicitly. So implicit finite difference approximation is applied here. Okay, so we have to apply implicit scheme, because our scheme is implicit in pressure. Okay, so apply the implicit finite difference approximation and calculate pressure here using this equation 5. So now, after calculating the pressure, substitute that pressure here and in the saturation correction equation, and get one saturation. So I'm repeating it. Okay, so this is what implicit means. Implicit in pressure and explicit in saturation means how we are, means first point is you are solving the immiscible two-phase fluid flow sequentially. Sequentially means you first get the pressure value, and from the pressure value get the saturation value. So likewise you are linearizing and solving it sequentially. We are not solving this equation at a stretch and get saturation and pressure together in a single step. We are not doing that. We are sequentially solving. So that's why it is called sequential solver. And how we are discretizing this, which time level value we are using. So that makes a difference, implicit and explicit. Okay. So we will move on to discretization of the pressure equation. So our pressure equation is like this. Okay, so this is your computational domain. This is nth time level and n plus 1 time level. And we have three grids, I plus 1 and I minus 1. And so in staggered grid arrangement, you have intermediate nodes also, I plus half and I minus half. Okay, so this is distance between I minus half and I plus half is delta x, and this is delta x, means equal grid size, grid spacing. Okay, so now we apply central scheme for this dou by dou x of the outer partial derivative, and applying central scheme for I plus half and I minus half. So likewise, and then you have a delta x. This is a delta x. So the whole term of I plus half corresponding to this node minus the whole term corresponding to I minus half node divided by delta x is equal to 0. And now again applying central scheme for dou p by dou x. So dou p by dou x, this location is here, I plus half. Applying dou p by dou x corresponding to this node, corresponding to I plus half node, it is becoming P of I plus 1 minus P of I divided by delta x. So likewise, now this corresponds to I minus half node. So it includes I and I minus 1. I and I minus 1. So all are discretized to the implicitly. So n plus 1 time level is taken. Okay. And so you have finally, if you rearrange this equation, bring this delta x and arrange it for bring all the coefficients together, and it will come like this. And even when you consolidate more, you will get an equation like this. Okay, so this is for P of I minus 1, I minus 1 n plus 1, and P of I and P of I n I plus 1. Okay, all are in n plus 1 terms. Okay, so even though I was mentioning, even though it is not a steady state, the equation, it means pressure is not changing with respect to time. Saturation is there to play the role. Okay, so that's what you can understand here. From the previous time level saturation, you are calculating lambda. Okay, and this lambda is varying with respect to time because saturation is changing, and that value is defining what your pressure is. Okay, so indirectly, it is not steady state equation, it is unsteady one. Because of the mathematical operations, it lost the dou p by dou t term. Okay, so likewise, the saturation at I and I minus 1 will contribute here. Okay, and I plus 1 will contribute here. Okay, it's how it will do it. From this saturation value, corresponding to this saturation value, we will get lambda for this node. Lambda I minus 1, lambda I, and I plus 1. And this intermediate node saturation, we do not have. So we do not have any value corresponding to the I plus half and intermediate nodes. Okay. So the ideology of finite difference is you divide the whole domain into small nodes. Okay. And we calculate pressure at these nodes. Okay. So say for example, pressure calculated at this node is something 10 megapascal. It does not means mathematically what is the value at 3.5. It does not give any value because we calculate only at the node. Okay, so we do not say that this value is equal within this domain and all. So it is point specific. Okay, node specific. You are calculating to that node point only. Okay, so what is the value of at the intermediate location, we do not know. Maybe we can interpolate it and then we can calculate, but by default from the finite difference technique, we are not calculating the intermediate location value, but we need the intermediate location value at this point of time. So what we do is we either average it or you take the upstream pressure. Okay, so that's the ideology. If flow is happening in this way, take flow takes place from the high pressure zone to the low pressure zone. Okay, Pi minus 1 is greater than the Pi, and so you take the lambda value corresponding to this node. Okay, if the flow is happening in this way from right to left, from I plus 1 to I, then we have to take the lambda value. Upstream lambda value means lambda of I plus 1. Okay, so that's one way. So this is also a thumb rule which is applied in the industry, by which node value means whether it is averaging or upstream value which we have to take. So, but it has proved that upstream values will give more accurate results when compared to averaging. Okay, so there are numerical studies which has been performed, and based on that, it is emphasized to use the upstream value. Okay, so likewise, so nth time level value is coming to the n plus 1 value. Okay, so now this is a rearranged way: Pi minus 1, Pi, and Pi plus 1. And when we decompose into matrix form, we will end up like this only. So it is basically three nodes are involved in every equation, and so you will end up in a tridiagonal system. So we will have the tridiagonal matrix, and you know how to solve it. We have done extensively on tridiagonal matrix algorithm. So at the end of this, we will get x, which means that P of I minus 1, P of I n plus 1. So now we have calculated the pressure, and we have to use the saturation correction equation to check the means to check whether our assumed saturation is correct or not, because based on this assumption only we have based on this assumption only we have calculated lambda, and because of that only we have got the pressure. Okay, so now this assumption is correct or not, which we have to verify, and so we use the saturation correction equation or saturation equation, and this is explicitly discretized. Okay, so this n plus 1 means iteration level. Okay, so we have not gone to the next time step. This pressure which we are calculating is for the iteration only. Whether once if it is converging, then only it has reached the convergence, and then only we call it as the pressure n plus 1. So till then it is in the iteration level only. Okay, so this discretization, again applying this staggered grid arrangement, and then you can get equation like this. Okay, this form. So now you get saturation based on the computed pressure. This value is the value which we calculated now, this pressure. this substitute the computed pressure here, and then you get saturation here. Okay, so this saturation and the assumed saturation has to be checked whether it is matching or not. If I have made a correct assumption, then it should match. Say for example, if the assumed value is zero 0.5, and if the calculated value is also is 0.5, then my assumption is correct, and so the pressure calculated is correct. Okay, and so now I can go to the next time step. Okay, so till that convergence, till that convergence is reaching, we have to do iteration again. If it is not equal, assumed is 0.5 and the computed value is 0.99, then substitute 0.99 again into the equation and calculate pressure, and that pressure value will come here, and again you will get saturation here. So likewise, iteration goes on. Okay, you can better understand using this loop. So the time level is starting here, and first iteration, assume the saturation and calculate the lambda, and using that lambda calculate pressure here. So this pressure value will come here, and we again calculate saturation here. So this assumed saturation is correct or not is checked here. Convergence. If yes, then it is going to the next time step. Keep them and set to the current level value. We say that current assumed value or the current time level value is what we computed, and then go to the next time step, which means that you have calculated this pressure and saturation corresponding to n plus 1 time level and all the nodes. Now you are eligible to go to the next time step. Okay, so from here, using these values, using nth time level value, we calculated n plus 1. Now after convergence has reached, we can go to the next n plus 2 using n plus 1 value. Now use n plus 1 value and calculate n plus 2. So that's what it means. But in case if convergence has not reached, then you again go here. Sorry. You again go here, update, means instead of doing the calculation based on this assumption, update that saturation assumed is the value which we calculated here. So this is what the value we calculated here. Substitute this value here. Again, you get lambda t. Lambda t. So that lambda t will come here. Again, you will get the pressure. And from the pressure, again, you get the saturation here. And see again, check whether it is converging or not. So this is what iteration is. You can take any basic exercise in mathematics, numerical techniques to understand this concept. Only thing is our equation is a little bit complicated and it is physics based. Okay. So likewise, it goes on for every time step. For every time step, this iteration will take place. So this iteration will take place. Once when convergence is reached, it will go to the next time step. At that time step, again this will take place, and after some time steps, it will iterations, convergence will reach, and then you go to the next time step. This is how it happens. Okay. So this is what this technique is, what impulse means, and this technique is most widely used technique, but still there are some limitations. So that limitation is because of you are using older time. The coefficient value we are calculating from the older time. So that's again we'll have some stability issues. So that's one limitation, and you can read it. It is understandable only. But one critical point is, yes, here. Okay, so when time step is kept small, okay, so when you have a small time step, it will give stable and accurate solution. So that's the limitation. Okay, but which means that if you go for large time steps, say for example you want to simulate for years, and then my delta time is 1 year, 2 year, instead of having 1 day or one hour or 2 hour or 12 hours or 24 hours, 1 day. Instead of that, if I go for a long time step, considering my overall simulation time, I have to simulate for 10 years and 20 years. So considering that I'm making it as 1 month, delta t as 1 month, which is significantly a large time step. In such cases, impulse will find means will have some stability issue. Okay, so that is coming because of this explicit saturation. We are discretizing this equation explicitly, and when we talk about stability, we have already discussed explicit solutions will is unstable. Okay, so that instability will come because of explicit saturation. Okay, I think that's all I have now. So this is what impulse means, and if you have any doubt, you can message me. But we are running out of time. If you have any doubt, you can ask now.